that even though these different groups have different eschatologies, there are convergence points which allows them to work together. Okay? So let's go over the major eschatologies. And remember, what's really important to understand is that these eschatologies are often secret, they sometimes change, and the details will be different. So I'm going to present to you more or less a general understanding of different eschatologies, okay? So let's start with the easiest, which is the Jewish eschatology. What do the Jews believe? Well, the Jews believe that because they disobeyed God, because they worshiped false idols, because they sinned, they were expelled by God from their homeland, Jerusalem, to wander the earth, which creates the Jewish diaspora. But eventually what will happen is that a Jewish Messiah will emerge to take the Jews back to Jerusalem, okay? And he will reconstitute the nation of Israel. He will recreate Israel, and then he will rebuild Solomon's temple. Why? Because Solomon's temple is where God lives. And it is where the people of Israel make sacrifices to Yahweh in order to show their devotion to Yahweh. So Solomon's temple is really important. There will be something called the War of Gog and Magog, where basically the entire world unites against Israel. Okay? And the War of Gog and Magog will be led by the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah, the false prophet. We don't know what Gog and Magog represent, okay? What the Bible says is these are people from the north, but that could be anyone. And certain Jewish scholars have interpreted Gog and Magog to represent Russia and Iran, okay? This is important because of what's happening today, okay? But of course, when it seems as though the enemies of Israel, Gog and Magog, when it seems that they are about to win, God will intervene and ensure that Israel wins. And this will usher in something called the Messianic age, when Israel becomes the most dominant nation on earth, when it becomes the light of nations, when it becomes the light of the world. Okay? Does that make sense? So that is the Jewish eschatology, and most Jews believe this. Then you have the Frankists, okay? And the Frankists, Sabbatine Frankists, they make important changes to this eschatology, okay? The first important change is the Jews believe that the Messiah will come when the time is right. So most rabbis believe that the Messiah will come in the year 6000 in the Jewish calendar, which is about the year 2020, in our calendar, which is about 200 years later, okay? So still a long time away. But the Frankists believe that the Messiah has already come, right? Sometimes Zevi, and then you have Jacob Frank. So they believe that, first of all, the Messiah is already here, okay? Which means that the war can start. Second thing that they believe is that you don't wait for God to intervene. You can accelerate the Messianic age by sinning, right? Because by sinning, what you're doing is you are defying Satan. It's Satan who created this world, and by sinning, you're defying his laws, you're defying his authority, and this will create more chaos, and you will reveal how evil this world is. You'll accelerate the collapse, okay, which will force God to intervene. And then during the Messianic age, what will happen is material pleasure. Okay, so rather than everyone being spiritually pure, we'll have a lot of sex. We will have feast. We will live forever. Okay, that's a Frankist interpretation of this eschatology. Okay? Does that make sense? Then you have the Christian Zionists. Okay, the Christian Zionists. I'll explain who the Christian Zionists are later on. Okay, but what the Christian Zionists will do is they will take this Jewish eschatology, but interpret it in a Christian context, okay? So for the Christians, they believe that, yes, all this will happen, okay? The Jews will establish the Messianic age, but this is really the Antichrist system, okay? The Antichrist, who is the Jewish Messiah, will establish a world government that will dominate the world, and he will establish something called the Mark of the Beast. Mark of the Beast is basically digital ID, okay? The Christians, they believe that, yes, all this will happen, okay? The Jews will establish the Messianic age. But this is really the Antichrist system, okay? The Antichrist, who is the Jewish Messiah, will establish a world government that will dominate the world. And he will establish something called the Mark of the Beast. Mark of the Beast is basically digital ID, okay? So just think of a microchip in your forehead or wherever that, and so you can be tracked, you can be monitored, okay? So basically an AI surveillance system, okay? So this is what the Messianic age of the Jews will look like, but it's the Antichrist system. And eventually what will happen is that the people will rebel against Israel, and this will lead to something called the War of Gog and Magog. Okay? And when it seems as though Israel is about to be defeated in the Battle of Armageddon, okay, what will happen is that Jesus will return. Jesus will return,